often, why do I homeschool? What made Pat and I decide to homeschool our children? And I'm just going to be honest with you. You guys may or may not agree with me, and that's okay. It's just, what we've decided to do, and I just want to share that with you. Pat is retired military, so he has lived, a lot of different places, even overseas. And since we've been married, we have moved to many different states. So I think altogether in my life, I think I've lived in either 16 or 17 different homes. Pat, I think, has lived in 24, 25, something, rough estimate. So we've lived in a lot of different places. And for us, when our children were, actually Olivia was 3 years old, Lance was 1 year old, and we lived in Colorado. We didn't know anything really about the school system there. We didn't have friends that had their kids in our local school there. We didn't know teachers. We didn't know faculty. There was no accountability system there at all. And I have to say, in all honesty, just, I am from a very, very rural community in the mountains of Virginia. And I went to a small high school where everybody kind of knew each other in a way, and there was just accountability. Teachers had been in the same school for years and years and years, and parents kind of knew the teachers. Your siblings went to the same school, and then the teachers knew your parents, and there was just a lot of people that knew each other. Going to Colorado, where we knew no one, that kind of freaked me out a little bit, thinking, okay, I'm going to send my children to a school where I don't even know who's there. I don't know any of the teachers. I just didn't have any ins with that, So that kind of made us a little bit nervous, being a little bit in a bigger school too. So that was one reason. Another reason was when I took my children, I think Olivia was 3, Lance was 1, when we lived in Colorado the first time. No, that was the second time around. Sorry, we've been to Colorado a few times. But Olivia was 3, Lance was 1, and I went to the playground one day. I have to just be honest, okay? I'm just being honest. When I took them to the playground on this particular day, there were some kids there. Some of them were preschool, and then it was on up into elementary school. And I just overheard some of the kids talking, and I will admit it, I am an overprotective mom. I just am, and that's just who I am, okay? That's just who I am. But as I was on the playground, and I just heard some of the language, and some of the words, and some of the things that were coming out of these kids' mouths, it scared me. It freaked me out. I'm like, how do these kids even know what this means? And they are literally, one of the little boys, I would have guessed that he was preschool. Maybe kindergarten, first grade at the most. Not even going to repeat what I heard him saying to the other kids. And they were just playing an innocent game of chase, but yet he's using this, just saying things that were just freaking me out. They were just freaking me out. And so just the thought of taking my daughter to school in a bigger community than what I was used to, and just saying, okay, I'm going to drop you off for the day, go find your teacher, and see you later, and I'll volunteer every now and then. That freaked me out, okay? Right or wrong, judge me, whatever. Everybody has their own opinions. But that is just, it just crossed a line with me, and I'm like, I can't do this. I can't drop her off. When I came back to tell Pat that, Pat was like, whatever. He was saying, I went to public school, you went to public school, we turned out fine, you still love God, we go to church, we turned out successful, we're great, la la la. And I was like, okay. I just felt like that it was just clear, and I also felt, combined with that situation on the playground, I also felt that the Lord was tugging my heart and leading me to homeschool my children. And that was way beyond my thoughts, comprehension, my know-how, because I was a hairdresser. As soon as I left school, I went to a beauty school, got my license by the time I was 19, I think, and was just in the salon, loved every minute of it. I just enjoyed doing hair, so the thoughts of actually homeschooling my kids and being home and not being around, like, you know, my girlfriends and my clients all day long, that was different, you know, thinking that. So anyway, so Pat was like, no, we're going to send them to school. They're going to be fine. We're going to be fine and whatever. So I just took that back to the Lord and I said, God, I really think that you are leading me to homeschool, but Pat has to be on board with this too. So you know what, God, I'm leaving this in your lap. I'm leaving it at your feet. And if this is truly something that you want our family to do, then I'm going to trust you to speak to Pat and you know, just give him the same thoughts or the same feeling, you know, that I have. And I left it alone. I literally, sincerely, I left it alone. Olivia was 3. No decision had to be made right then. Okay. So forward. We never even discussed it again. Never even discussed it. And I don't know. Maybe it was 6 months later. I mean, it was some time because it was a drop it and leave it alone thing. And ironically, Pat took the kids to a playground, and again, it was just some of the language and some of the things that he observed on the playground, not only with the children but also with the parents, and just there was just a check in his spirit as well. So he came home and was talking to me, and he was like, you know what? We need to discuss this whole homeschooling thing and see if this is something that God really is leading us to do. Now, again, I know the thoughts of so many people. It's like, you know, you're protecting them from the real world, and, you know, and you can't overprotect them. And, you know, I understand that, and I respect those opinions, you know. I do. Everybody has to make their own decisions. But for me, this is the way I feel. Okay, so with all of that, again, I will say I am an overprotective mom. Pat will say there is no such thing as overprotecting, because that's what a parent's job is to protect our children. This is where I take these things, and when I take it to the Lord, and I have to see what it is that the Lord says to me, and what it is that He wants me to do. This is the way I see it. There are scriptures that say that parents are to train up a child in the way they should go. And to me, that is pouring into the children the ways of God and leading them by example. Not just, this is what I say you need to do. This is, you know, the religion of it. These are the rules and regulations of Christianity. You know, they need to see an example, because we can say all day long, do this, do that, but they need to see an example. So, again, I have way more friends that send their kids to public school than I have friends that homeschool. Okay, so I am so walking on thin ice because I don't want to be offensive to anyone, and I'm just sharing my story and my own convictions. For me, I felt like my life kind of veered off in such a way that I just didn't want my children to veer off in that way. I wish that when I was younger that I had been trained up a little more in the Word. I wish I went to church, and my family, we were in ministry from the time I can remember. My dad led Sunday school and was always a strong leader in the church, and he's a pastor now. Our family sang, and we traveled around every single weekend, doing like 2 or 3 concerts almost every weekend, singing in my teenage years. And it was so much fun, and I just enjoy looking back and thinking of that heritage that was left to me from my parents. And I wanted to do the same thing with my kids, was to just pour into them and to teach them and train them and guide them and lead them. I wanted to give them one-on-one education, and just to see, is this something that is really going to work for us? I had a dear friend of mine, her name is Natalie, and she was like, because I was freaking out, like, what if I can't do this? What if this is the wrong thing? And she was like, Rebecca, You do not have to make this decision from now until they're 18. It's not like a one-time decision. You can take it year by year. You can take it semester by semester. That gave me so much freedom to say, okay, you know what? For this semester, what is it that I'm supposed to do? And so when they were little, even preschool age on, I took it semester by semester. So I would get nervous. I would freak out. I would go to the homeschooling stores and look at curriculums and workbooks and talk to other parents and just freak out like most homeschooling parents do. But then there would be such a peace and an excitement that would come on me to say, you know what? I can do this. I can teach my child to read. I can teach my child to count. I can teach my child to add, to subtract. I can teach her how to do memory work, do things from the Bible. I can teach them stories about history or science and do fun little experiments. Elementary school, now that we are upper elementary and middle school now, I can look at the younger elementary. Those were the best years and the most fun years that I can remember. Well, I mean, we're having fun now too, though, so that's hard to say. But that was an awesome, awesome time to train my children when they were little. We had hard times, yes. Every day was not like rosy and cheery and, yay, Mommy, what do you want to teach us today? It wasn't like that. There were a lot of strategies that I had to learn and to overcome. But ultimately, I enjoyed being with my children. I enjoyed doing school with them, finishing up in those early years, like by 11, 12 at the very latest, and heading out, packing up, going to the park, packing up, going to a museum, going and looking at something hands-on, going and doing experiments, watching movies, going to the library, and just teaching them real-life scenarios and situations, being able to be proactive with helping to choose their friends in their younger years. And I know, again, that is another sticky situation. It is walking on ice right there, because I know a lot of people disagree with me. But for me, when I would see my children, each one of them, when I would see my daughter be around a certain they were friends, ish, you know. I could see Olivia gravitating to the negative behaviors coming home, and then Pat and I were having to spank her because she was acting like her friends and not like the way that we trained her up to be. So we had to kind of put a little bit of a control on who is going to influence our children. Again, you guys may have different views. That's great. I give you the freedom. Just give me the freedom too to be able to, just to speak and say what I feel, because I wanted to protect them and also get people to help, kind of like fertilizer. You know, the Bible calls us oaks of righteousness, but even an oak tree, when they're planted into the soil and they are a seed, or an acorn, when they grow up and there's a little sapling, it is very tender, and it can be snapped, it can be broken, it can be hurt, it can be damaged, it can even be pulled up by the roots. And I just felt like I needed to protect them so that they could grow strong. And then even as they've been growing older, their roots are growing stronger. They know who they are in Christ, because that is reality of who we are. It's not who we are on earth and what friends we have and what career we have and what education. That's not who we really are at the spiritual level and the very core of our being. Who we are is who God says we are. So as they've been able to grow, I've been able to nurture them and to be there. One thing I love about homeschooling communities is that once you get into a co-op, the whole thing of like socialization. Are you kidding me? Socialization is the best part of homeschooling, because you're teaming up with other moms, like-minded parents who want the best for their children, and we team up. So when Johnny and my Olivia are fighting, or little Susie, or whoever, they come and they're in a squabble, the two moms come together, and we are not just, what did little Johnny do to you, or whatever. I would have to say, I'm usually more concerned about what did my child do to the other people, because I want to train them up in God's ways. What did you do? How did you react? You know, it's kind of like if someone was, if they were being mean to someone else, then they're going to get disciplined and corrected. And if somebody was being mean to them, then I want to train my child up in how to respond. You know, I want them to be able to learn from Pat and me, because we are their parents. We want them, we want to train them up in the way that we would respond. Not that we're perfect, but we want to train them up in the Lord. So the cool thing is that being around other homeschooling families, they are concerned about the well-being of their children and their character, of who they are, probably even more so than they are about the squabble. They want to make sure that you know, that we're teaming up and walking in godliness, and we're training the children up. Now, it's not always perfect that way. I mean, there have been situations where, you know, maybe you don't agree and see eye to eye, but I would say for the most part, it has been a beautiful thing to where you are just with people who are like-minded, and to be able to see kids who are comfortable praying with each other. They love each other. They are genuinely for each other. The other thing I like about homeschooling is that there's not this grade segregation of, oh, well, I am in 3rd grade and you are in 1st grade, so we don't play with you. Or we are in 7th grade and we are all that, you know, we're getting ready to, you know, we're in middle school now and we don't mess with the elementary. It's not like that in homeschooling communities. It's usually, not saying always, but it's usually, you know, if everybody's playing, you know, say like a softball game or a volleyball game, from the oldest to the youngest, even if the youngest is learning how to do tally marks and to keep score, or to be little cheerleaders on the side, you will see the older ones pouring into the younger ones, and they come into a community of helping each other and loving each other. And then your younger children learn how to interact with the older kids, not just their own peers. And it's a lovely, beautiful, beautiful thing. And then you will see the kids making mature decisions, and usually, again, not a blanket statement, but you'll usually see them interacting even in the world, whether we go to the store, whether we go wherever, we're always complimented on the way our kids are behaving, because I'm always on them. They're always with me and they don't get away with anything. Like, we're hard on our kids. We really are. You know, we want to shape them and mold them, but it's just been an awesome experience seeing them grow up, and they are not perfect. We are not perfect. We have many flaws, and we are still working, you know, through a lot of things. But overall, I enjoy my children, and my children enjoy us. Like, we love being with them, and they love being with us. So I know that's a roundabout way, and I hope that I didn't say anything that offends anyone else that has chosen something different, because trust me, I revisit every single year, sometimes twice a year. Do we still want to continue homeschooling? Is it time to go to public school? Is it time to look into a private school? I always keep those options open, because we always want to be obedient to God. Always, always, always. So wherever the Lord is leading us, that's where we want to go ultimately. So yeah, so those are the highlight reasons and the benefits of our homeschooling decision. The other thing too, I think a big thing that God knew that we had no way of knowing, that we have moved so many times, and I mentioned that earlier, but literally from the time Lance was born, he was born in Rhode Island, then we moved to Virginia, then to Colorado, then to California, and then we lived in 3 different places there. No, 2 different places there. And then we moved to Virginia, and we were literally in 2 different places here before we bought our house. So, and that was just, the California and Virginia thing was in 1 school year. So that had been in 4 school districts. So the Lord knew the plan that He had for our family, and He knew uprooting them in and out of schools, public schools, or even private schools was just not an option for us, especially you know, during that school year, that particular school year. So anyway, we love homeschooling. We wouldn't trade it for anything. I'll do another video and show you a little bit of what our homeschooling day looks like. I'll pull out some of our workbooks and curriculum and stuff so you can take a look at that. You know, you know, preparing them for the real world. I think that we are preparing them very well for the real world because they know who they are, and they're not going to be swayed into the world's ways. Will they be perfect? No. Will they make mistakes? Yes. But to the best of my ability, when I stand before the Lord, you know, when I die and I'm gone from this earth, I will be able to stand before the Lord and say, to the best of my ability, I raised my children and did what I knew to be honoring to the Lord to the best of my ability. Not saying that if you send your kids to public school that you're not honoring God. That's not what I'm saying. But for me, in following God in obedience, step by step by step, and if that means public school, we'll do it. If that means private school, we will do it. But we also need to, we will trust God step by step, way by way. You know, and there's examples too where Samuel, you know, when Hannah had Samuel in the Bible, she left him at a temple. She promised to leave him and give him to God, and she left him at a temple, and he was raised by, you know, yes, they were at the temple, but there were some very bad, ungodly influences. But the bottom line is that Hannah was obedient to the Lord, and the Lord had his hand upon Samuel. And I trust God, no matter where my kids are, when we are walking in obedience and do what God calls us to do with our children, he will lead us and guide us and show us the way that our kids need to go. I trust that and believe that above everything else. I know that. But back to the whole homeschooling thing, I enjoy homeschooling. We enjoy it. We love it. It's been a fun experience. I look forward to more. There are definitely challenges as the kids are getting older, especially Olivia. I'm starting to map out, you know, she's in 6th grade this year. We're starting to map out a little bit of what her high school years are going to look like. And I'm not a physicist. I am not, you know, a biologist. There are going to be times where I'm going to have to reach out to, whether it's a co-op, online classes, something like that, to be able to augment what I'm able to teach her. So I don't go blindly and just say, and super over spiritualize things, because they do need an education, and I want them to be relevant in the world, just like Paul was. Paul was a very well-educated man and knew so many different languages. He was cultured as a Jew, and anyway, that's going on a bunny trail. But I want my children to be very capable academically, but especially spiritually, and I want them to be able to follow the Lord and let that be the priority of all of the days of their lives. So anyway, I think my timer says 23 minutes or 23. So anyway, that's our story of homeschooling and why we do it, and we enjoy it, we love it. And again, I can't say this enough. I truly do not, I have no judgment towards those who have other choices for education for their children. And I know that my friends haven't had judgment towards me too. So anyway, that's just the beauty of giving each other freedom to make our way on planet Earth. So, all right, that's all I have. That's all I have. All right, till next time. Bye-bye.